If you're over 60, listen closely, because this message could change the way you look at some vegetables you've been eating your entire life. Most people think vegetables are always safe, always healthy, and always recommended. And for the most part, they are. But there's a hidden truth: many older adults don't know certain vegetables, when eaten in the wrong way or in the wrong amounts, can quietly raise your risk of a stroke, especially if you already have high blood pressure, blood vessel stiffness, or heart issues. Let's break this down simply. As we age, our arteries naturally begin to lose elasticity. Blood pressure tends to creep up. Blood vessels become more sensitive to sudden changes in sodium, potassium, or compounds like nitrates and oxalates. And that means your body responds differently to foods that never caused any problems in your younger years. The first group of vegetables to be mindful of are high sodium preserved vegetables, pickles, kimchi, sauerkraut, and any vegetable stored in brine. The vegetables themselves aren't dangerous. It's the extremely high salt levels used to preserve them. For someone over 60, even a single cup of a salty vegetable can spike blood pressure within hours. And a sudden jump in blood pressure is one of the fastest ways to trigger a stroke risk, especially in people with stiff arteries or existing hypertension. The second group are high oxalate vegetables like spinach, beets, beet greens, and Swiss chard. Again, these vegetables are healthy, but only in moderation. High oxalate loads can contribute to kidney stones, and kidney stress is strongly linked with higher stroke risk. When kidneys struggle, blood pressure rises. And every rise, even temporary, tightens the pressure on your brain's blood vessels. The third group is nitrate-rich vegetables, such as celery, lettuce, and some leafy greens. Normally, these help blood flow. But if they're stored poorly, reheated repeatedly, or left out for too long, nitrates can convert into nitrites or even nitrosamines, chemicals linked to vascular stress and inflammation. Older adults have reduced detoxification capacity, so these harmful compounds stay in the body longer. But here's the most important takeaway: the vegetables are not the enemy. It's how you eat them, how often, and what shape your blood vessels are already in. If you're over 60, your goal isn't to avoid vegetables. It's to avoid the patterns that turn healthy foods into risky foods. So here's what you can do starting today. We'll limit brined vegetables to very small amounts and rinse them before eating. Rotate your greens. Don't eat the same high oxalate vegetables every day. Don't reheat leafy greens, repeatedly eat them fresh. Support your blood pressure with potassium-rich, low-sodium choices like cucumbers, zucchini, and bell peppers. Drink plenty of water so your kidneys can filter out excess compounds. Stroke prevention isn't about fear. It's about knowledge. When you understand how your body changes after 60, you can use food as a tool, not a threat. Small adjustments protect your heart, your brain, and your independence for years to come. High sodium preserved vegetables may look harmless, but for adults over 60, they can dramatically shift blood pressure in just a few hours, creating conditions that raise stroke risk far more than most people realize. Many older adults grew up eating pickles, achar, kimchi, sauerkraut, canned vegetables, and brined snacks without ever thinking about the salt content. But the reality is that preserved vegetables are often soaked in extremely concentrated brine, sometimes containing more sodium in a single serving than what an older adult should consume in an entire day. As the body ages, the kidneys become less efficient at removing excess sodium from the bloodstream. When sodium accumulates, it draws water into the blood vessels, increases total blood volume, and causes blood pressure to rise much faster than it would in a younger person. This rise in blood pressure may not feel dramatic. There is often no pain, no warning sign, and no immediate discomfort. But silently, the pressure inside the arteries increases, pushing against vessel walls that are already less flexible due to age-related changes. Stiff arteries cannot expand to handle sudden spikes, so the pressure becomes more focused on vulnerable areas, especially in the tiny blood vessels that supply the brain. These tiny vessels are the ones most likely to rupture or become blocked when blood pressure rises abruptly. That's why even one salty meal can increase stroke risk overnight in people with uncontrolled blood pressure, diabetes, or narrowed arteries. Preserved vegetables also contain additives such as MSG, artificial flavors, and preservatives that may further influence blood pressure regulation. Some of these compounds cause water retention, others increase thirst, leading to additional fluid intake without balancing minerals. This creates a cycle where sodium levels stay elevated longer than expected. Older adults often don't drink enough water throughout the day, making it even more difficult for their kidneys to flush out the excess sodium. That means the spike in blood pressure can last well into the night when most strokes actually occur. Another overlooked issue is portion size. People often eat preserved vegetables as a side dish, but they don't realize that even 2 tablespoons of acher or pickled vegetables can contain more salt than a packet of chips. When eaten with already salty meals, bread, processed meat, cheese, canned soup, the effect compounds quickly. Even homemade pickles can be extremely high in salt because traditional recipes rely on heavy salting to prevent spoilage. The good news is that reducing risk doesn't mean eliminating these foods completely. Small adjustments can make a big difference. Rinsing pickled vegetables under water removes a surprising amount of sodium. Choosing low-sodium versions when available, limiting portions to a small amount, and balancing them with potassium-rich fresh vegetables like cucumbers or tomatoes helps neutralize some of sodium's impact on blood pressure. Staying hydrated throughout the day also supports kidney function, allowing the body to flush out salt more efficiently. Most importantly, being mindful and intentional with salt intake gives older adults more control over their blood pressure and reduces stroke risk significantly without sacrificing foods they enjoy. High oxalate vegetables such as spinach, beets, beet greens, Swiss chard, and even sweet potatoes are often celebrated as nutrient powerhouses, but for adults over 60, consuming these foods in large amounts or too frequently can silently stress the kidneys and indirectly raise the risk of stroke. The key issue isn't the vegetables themselves. They are rich in vitamins, antioxidants, and fiber, but the oxalate load they deliver. Oxalates are natural compounds that bind with minerals like calcium in the body. When oxalate levels rise too high, they can form crystals that accumulate in the kidneys, leading to irritation, reduced filtration efficiency, and eventually kidney stones. Kidney stress is far more than just discomfort. It has a direct connection to blood pressure regulation, which plays a central role in stroke risk. As people age, kidney function naturally declines. The filtering units of the kidneys, known as nephrons, become less efficient. This means the kidneys can't clear oxalates from the bloodstream as quickly as they could decades earlier. When oxalates build up, they can inflame the kidney tissue, making it harder for the kidneys to control sodium, water balance, and blood pressure. Even mild impairment can allow blood pressure to rise subtly but consistently over time. And high blood pressure remains the number one modifiable risk factor for stroke in older adults. Many seniors unknowingly overload their bodies with oxalates by eating the same healthy vegetables daily. For example, having spinach omelets in the morning, beetroot juice in the afternoon, and chard in a salad at night seems nutritious, but it leads to a cumulative oxalate burden. The problem grows larger when these vegetables are blended or juiced because that condenses oxalates into a much higher dose. A single cup of spinach juice can equal the oxalate content of several bowls of whole spinach. Hydration also plays a major role. Older adults often drink less water, either because of reduced thirst signals, bladder concerns, or medications that alter fluid balance. Without enough water, the kidneys cannot dilute the oxalates effectively, causing them to crystallize more easily. Once oxalate crystals begin to form, kidney strain increases, leading to a chain reaction that elevates blood pressure and places more stress on blood vessels, especially those supplying the brain. Cooking methods influence oxalate content as well. Raw spinach, for instance, contains significantly more oxalates than cooked spinach. Boiling high oxalate vegetables and discarding the water can reduce oxalate levels by up to 70%, yet many people consume them raw in salads or smoothies, unaware of the difference. The solution is not to fear these vegetables, but to use them wisely. Rotating greens throughout the week, instead of eating the same high oxalate vegetables every day, prevents buildup. Pairing oxalate-rich foods with calcium sources like yogurt or cheese helps bind oxalates in the stomach, reducing absorption. Staying hydrated allows the kidneys to flush oxalates more effectively. And, importantly, eating a variety of lower oxalate vegetables like kale, cabbage, lettuce, cucumbers, and zucchini maintains nutritional balance without excessive kidney stress. These small adjustments help protect kidney health, regulate blood pressure, and lower stroke risk while keeping a nutritious diet intact. Nitrate-rich vegetables such as celery, lettuce, arugula, spinach, and certain leafy greens have long been praised for supporting circulation, improving nitric oxide levels, and helping maintain healthy blood pressure. Under normal circumstances, they do exactly that. But what many people don't know, especially adults over 60, is that these vegetables become risky when they are stored improperly, reheated multiple times, or left out at room temperature for too long. As nitrate-rich vegetables sit, the naturally occurring nitrates can convert into nitrites and eventually into compounds called nitrosamines. These secondary compounds behave very differently in the body. Instead of supporting blood flow, they can create inflammation, oxidative stress, and vascular irritation, all of which pose a greater challenge for aging blood vessels that are already less flexible and more prone to damage. For someone over 60, even a small amount of vessel irritation can influence stroke risk because aging arteries don't have the same protective elasticity they once had. The inner lining of the arteries becomes thinner and more sensitive. When nitrosamines or excessive nitrites enter the bloodstream, they can trigger a temporary tightening of the blood vessels, raising blood pressure unexpectedly. Older adults who already struggle with hypertension, diabetes, or plaque buildup in their arteries are significantly more vulnerable to these sudden changes. A blood pressure spike that a younger adult might tolerate could become dangerous for someone whose vessels no longer adapt easily. The risk increases further when nitrate-rich vegetables are consumed from leftovers. Many people cook large batches of leafy greens, reheat them over several days, or leave cooked vegetables cooling on the counter for long periods. Each cycle of cooling, reheating, and storing accelerates nitrate conversion. What starts as a heart-healthy meal can gradually shift into a meal that places extra strain on blood vessels. The change isn't visible. You can't smell or see these chemical transformations, making it easy for older adults to unknowingly expose themselves to harmful compounds. Another overlooked factor is stomach acidity. As people age, stomach acid naturally decreases. Lower acidity means nitrates are more likely to convert into nitrites and nitrosamines in the digestive tract. This chemical environment makes older adults more susceptible to the negative effects of improperly handled leafy greens than younger people. Add in common age-related factors like reduced kidney filtration, slower digestion, and blood vessel stiffness, and the risk compounds even further. However, this does not mean nitrate-rich vegetables should be avoided. When handled properly, they remain some of the most beneficial foods for supporting circulation and overall cardiovascular health. The key is consuming them fresh. Eating leafy greens raw or lightly cooked and consuming them the same day greatly reduces the chance of harmful conversions. If leftovers are necessary, they should be refrigerated promptly and never reheated multiple times. Choosing whole, fresh greens instead of pre-cut or pre-washed packaged versions also lowers the risk because cut surfaces accelerate nitrate breakdown. By being mindful of how nitrate-rich vegetables are stored and prepared, older adults can reap their full benefits without unintentionally increasing stroke risk. Freshness, proper storage, and avoiding repeated reheating are simple steps that protect blood vessels and support long-term vascular health. The real issue for adults over 60 is not the vegetables themselves, but the way they're prepared, how often they're eaten, and the condition of the body processing them. As we age, the body becomes more sensitive to dietary patterns that never caused problems before. Arteries stiffen, kidney function slows down, digestion becomes less efficient, and the body's ability to regulate blood pressure becomes more fragile. Because of these natural changes, even healthy foods can create problems when consumed in excess, prepared improperly, or eaten in repetitive patterns without variation. This is why understanding the context of food, rather than fearing the food, is the key to protecting long-term health. Vegetables preserved in salt rich in oxalates or high in nitrates are only risky when the body is already struggling with elevated blood pressure, compromised kidney function, or vascular stiffness. In younger adults, the kidneys easily filter excess sodium, the digestive system handles oxalates more efficiently, and blood vessels respond more flexibly to changes in circulation. But after 60, the same systems become more delicate. What was once harmless can now push the body out of balance much faster than expected. For example, someone who eats pickled vegetables daily may unintentionally overload their sodium intake not because the food is dangerous, but because the body no longer clears excess salt as effectively as it did decades ago. Frequency is another important factor. Many older adults eat the same healthy foods every day, thinking consistency is the best path to wellness. But eating the same high oxalate vegetable repeatedly, like daily spinach smoothies, can overwhelm the kidneys. The same applies to repeatedly reheated leafy greens that accumulate more nitrites each time they're warmed. A pattern that is nutritionally sound in theory becomes risky when it lacks balance and rotation. The solution isn't to eliminate these foods, but to integrate variety so the body is not repeatedly exposed to the same compounds. Preparation methods matter just as much. A vegetable eaten fresh can be incredibly supportive for heart health, while the same vegetable reheated 3 times may deliver harmful byproducts. A leafy green cooked immediately after washing is nutrient-rich, while that same green left sitting for hours before cooking may start converting nitrates into nitrites. The difference lies not in the vegetable, but in the care taken during preparation and storage. Ultimately, the most powerful message for adults over 60 is that food should be approached with awareness, not fear. Healthy eating is not about cutting out entire categories of vegetables. It's about adapting eating habits to match the body's changing needs. Smaller portions of brined foods, rotating leafy greens, avoiding repeated reheating, and staying hydrated are practical adjustments that allow older adults to enjoy their favorite vegetables safely. By focusing on moderation, freshness, and mindful preparation, the benefits of vegetables remain intact while the risks are significantly reduced. This balanced approach supports blood pressure, kidney health, and vascular function, helping reduce stroke risk without sacrificing nutrition or enjoyment. Simple dietary adjustments can dramatically reduce stroke risk in adults over 60, and the beauty is that none of these changes require eliminating vegetables or giving up foods you enjoy. Instead, the goal is to support your body's natural systems, your arteries, your kidneys, and your circulation so they can function more efficiently despite the normal aging process. Many people assume that stroke risk rises only because of genetics or age, but in reality, daily habits create the conditions that either protect or weaken blood vessels. Small, consistent changes in how vegetables are chosen, prepared, and consumed can have a surprisingly powerful impact. The first adjustment is focusing on freshness. Fresh vegetables contain more stable nutrients and fewer harmful byproducts than those that have been sitting cut, reheated, or preserved for long periods. When vegetables are eaten raw or freshly cooked, they deliver antioxidants and minerals that help support healthy blood pressure and protect the lining of blood vessels. For older adults, avoiding reheated leafy greens or leftover spinach, celery, or beets reduces the chance of consuming nitrites or nitrosamines, compounds that can irritate aging arteries. A second adjustment is improving hydration. Kidneys play a major role in regulating blood pressure, and dehydration makes their job significantly harder. When the body is low on fluids, oxalates and sodium become more concentrated in the bloodstream, making it easier for these substances to disrupt blood pressure balance. Drinking water regularly throughout the day, not just when you feel thirsty, helps the kidneys flush out excess salt and oxalates more effectively, preventing the buildup that contributes to hypertension and vascular strain. Another powerful adjustment is adding variety to your vegetable intake. Instead of eating the same high oxalate greens every day, rotate through lower oxalate options like kale, cabbage, lettuce, cucumbers, or zucchini. This ensures that the body isn't overloaded with one specific compound that could create stress on the kidneys or blood vessels. Variety also provides a broader range of nutrients that work together to strengthen the cardiovascular system. Portion control is equally important. Many preserved or brined vegetables can still be enjoyed in small amounts. Rinsing pickles or atchar underwater before eating removes excess salt, and limiting portions helps prevent sudden spikes in sodium that could raise blood pressure. These simple steps allow older adults to maintain cultural eating habits without compromising vascular health. Balancing sodium-rich or oxalate-rich foods with potassium-rich vegetables is another effective strategy. Potassium helps relax blood vessel walls and counteracts the effects of sodium. Vegetables like tomatoes, avocados, sweet peppers, and squash can help restore mineral balance, keeping blood pressure more stable. When blood pressure stays controlled, stroke risk decreases dramatically. Finally, mindful eating, paying attention to how different foods make you feel, can be a valuable tool. If a particular food consistently causes bloating, headaches, or pressure in the head, it may be a sign that your body is sensitive to it. Adjusting your diet based on these signals helps create a long-term eating pattern that supports your arteries and reduces stroke risk. By making these small but intentional changes, adults over 60 can enjoy a vibrant, nutrient-rich diet while safeguarding their cardiovascular health for years to come.
Before anything else, if you're still here, that alone proves you're built different. Your focus is rare, your hunger is real. Most people tap out early, but you stayed locked in. If today's video lit a spark inside you, hit subscribe and tap the bell. Bigger breakthroughs are coming. Until then, stay sharp, stay driven, keep rising.